Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation, and I've got back in the seat John Clauser from Alabama, USA. How are you, my friend?
Doing good, mate. Doing good. Waiting for a little thunderstorm to come, but otherwise we're good.
Thunderstorm and Thunderstruck. We are going to cover the self-titled debut of the Winery Dogs, a little bit of a rock postcards episode. So I have not heard this band. I listened to this album quite recently with fresh ears. I've heard of the band. Maybe, John, I'll throw it over to you. Provide the viewers with a little bit of background and your first listening experience with the Winery Dogs, and then I'll get stuck into the first album.
Right. So the origins came started about 2012, 2013. It was announced on that metal show that Billy Sheehan and Mike Portnoy were getting together with this guy named John Sykes. You might have seen him on a milk carton.
Sorry.
Right. You might have seen him on a milk carton somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, well, that project went nowhere. And so Eddie Trunk said, hey, why don't you give Richie Kotzen a call? Now, Richie Kotzen has some history with Billy. You know, they were in Mr. Big together from 1997 to 2002. He was also in Poison for a little bit. He had a solo career. He had some stuff on Shrapnel Records. And, you know, Richie's kind of got this solo, soulful feel of how he plays, how he sings. And it was when they got together for this first album, the self-titled album, it was when I first heard it, it just had this very organic feel. And so, you know, and I listened to this probably about 10 years ago when it came out. And then I kind of put it off on the shelf for a while. I just didn't get back to it. And then this past March, they played here in Birmingham. And I had a guy say, hey, why don't you come see the Winery Dogs with me? I'm like, okay, yeah. I've actually never seen Billy Sheehan in concert. When I saw David Lee Roth, Billy was already out of the band. So I never got to see Mr. Big, and I'm a huge Mr. Big fan. And it was just such a fun experience. You know, there was such a fun band to watch. Just because Billy was having a great time. Portnoy was having a great time. Kotzen was in a zone, focused on singing and playing, and he was really doing great. And so it just made me, so when you had said you hadn't heard them, I thought, hey, why don't we do this for a rock postcards, just for something a little not quite so obscure as some of the previous bands that we've talked about on the American side of the rock postcard thing. So yeah, I just thought it was just such a fun band to watch in concert and enjoy musically. To me, it felt that organic, fun feeling. So I just kind of wanted to see what you thought about it and take it and let you hear what your ears thought about this. And since we do have a love for Billy Sheehan with Eat Smile and stuff like that. So yeah, that was why I went with this one.
Nice. Well, thank you very much. It's just one of those bands that I just passed me by. And to be quite frank, I'm not really familiar with Dream Theater either. There are some bands that you hear a lot about, but for whatever reason, it just passes you by. Yeah. So my impression from this album, 13 songs, 60 minutes, 14 seconds, could be trimmed. I'm a great believer. I'm old school. I like 10 songs, and I think maybe 60 minutes is a little bit long, but I understand in the CD age they want to fill it up. The impression I get of this album is the voice. Kotzen's voice is just divine. It's just got that really soulful, probably the closest that I could relate it to from a singing perspective. It sounds very much like Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. Very soulful, virtuoso, big range.
Yeah.
Mike Portnoy's drumming, great. I can understand, he's got all these prog fills, but he has restraint. There are some songs that require, whether it's balladry or a little bit more, needs to be laid back. He can pull it back, but he is a drummer extraordinaire. And I understand that when they are talking about a Rush reunion, or Rush to Continue, he's always the drummer that they relate to as the one that can put his hand up and sit in the stool. And then you've got Billy Sheehan. You've got that serpentine bass runs all the way through. So that was one thing, having the headphones on, you can hear Billy's bass bubbling up and down the fretboard, doing all these little sort of runs, arpeggios, etc. Whether I think that works well, not sure. Jury's out. But I'll go through the songs and chime in, John. Chime in if there's anything that you disagree or. So it starts off with Elevate. First impression, modern production. Billy's Sheehan's bass is serpentine. I think it's way too busy. And that's the problem I have with his bass playing in this album. It's way too busy all the way through. I like it where he does some little runs, but every single song he's doing way too much and he needs to tone it back. He's like, you've got guitar shredding. It's like bass shredding. He needs to just bring it back. And I love bass. It's one of my favorite instruments and I gravitate to it. And, the way it's in the mix, he's got that bass tone that's really down in the mix and he's kind of down tuning. To me, I don't know, it sort of detracts a little bit. But anyway, we'll continue on. This song's got a lot of guitar shredding. Kotzen's voice is divine. If this was slowed down, it would be kind of Led Zeppelin-like, and except it's got a poppy chorus. So there's a little bit of Led Zeppelin in it. You can see that they're putting their influences. There's a lot of classic rock influences in this band, 70s classic rock. The lyrics all the way through this album are very much about redemption, looking at oneself and sort of recognizing that Kotzen is the main lyric writer, I assume. He can improve himself as a human being. So the lyrics of this are kind of interesting, very wordy lyrics, but there's a little bit of thought and quite a bit of intelligence. So the lyrics of this one is elevate me, take me higher. I don't want to be wasted. I've got nothing left to lose. And that sets up the tone for the whole album. There's a lot of redemption, looking at one's sins, one's flaws, a lot of guilt. And this is the song on the album that sort of starts this off. I don't think it's my favorite song on the album, but things improve. So we go into Desire. This has got a spiky guitar, and Richie is really soulful here. It's got a really nice soulful voice. I like it when they bring the funk out, bit of funk, bit of R&B, bit of groove. There's better service of the material when it gets funky. And I don't, I'm always a sucker for a bit of wah-wah. So this is a bit of an improvement. I like it when it goes a little bit out of the box. So Desire, that's not a bad song. We Are One. So another funky one. It's got a bit of groove going on. Portnoy's drumming is really sublime. And I like that, Richie's vocals and guitar, he's got a lot of range, hasn't he?
He does. He really does.
A lot of soul, a lot of range, and he adapts these really different tones. I find him really interesting. And, it's just, he's one of those secret weapons that a lot of the casual rock fan would not even know about. So, his vocals really serve this song really well. He holds back when it's required, but it's really, really good vocals. I'm No Angel. So Richie does this rich, soulful tone. He shows off his higher register. Again, the lyrics, I'm no angel, can't you see? I've got nothing that you need. My misfortune done with me, I'm no angel. So it's a song telling the other party, don't put me on a pedestal. Have respect. because I'm far from perfect. So all the lyrics in this band are very sort of confessional. And this is quite interesting for a self-titled debut. I don't think it's a totally happy album because, I don't know. Yeah, it's like Richie is pouring it out. And there's a lot of darkness, but it's rewarding at the same time. It's interesting to have something that's beyond the cliche and beyond the run of the mill.
Right.
The other side, I like this Richie or Cozen's vocals are following the melody line. You know, like when Jimi Hendrix used to do that, he'd play a melody line and he'd sing along with it. Portnoy on this one plays a little behind the beat, which is interesting. A little bit behind the beat. Richie does this fantastic little finger tapping solo. And then he changes tempo and it goes into this crunchy rhythm track with, just absolutely shredding it and bringing it down. So this is a good little song. Then we go into the ballad, You Saved Me. It's a song about being in the pits of depression, being down and out, and coming out the other side. So, it's an interesting one. Not Hopeless. Sheehan's bass line is serpentine and matches the Coates guitar line. There is a bass solo, 2 minutes and 26 seconds into it. Not a guitar solo, folks, but a bass solo. And then it combines, at the end of the bass solo, combines with Richie Kotzen, and then it comes across as kind of very proggy and a little bit jazzy. And I'm thinking, what is this album? It's going into a different direction. It's gone into kind of funk, metal, hard rock, a little bit R&B, and then goes into something that's proggy. But it's very unusual where the song has a spotlight on a bass player. And he's unusual. Like shredding bass. What do you think of this song?
Oh man, I mean, this is I wish they would have done this one live when I saw them. This is not one they did live, but this would have been a fun one to have watched. And maybe they couldn't pull it off live. I don't know, but I think they probably could have. But yeah, this one wasn't played live, and I would have loved to have heard it. But it is a strong one. With that bass stuff, it's just, but again, it's Billy Sheehan. Would we expect less out of him with little bass soloing kind of thing? So who knows? But is Billy's tone live like it is on the record, like down tuned a little bit? Yeah, when I saw them, I was like literally right in front of the stage, so I was like, I pretty much could see Billy pretty crystal clear. And I could definitely, even though I was wearing earplugs, I could still hear it very well. And I kind of wish I hadn't worn earplugs that night because I couldn't hear Richie's vocals that well. When I took them out for the last two songs, then I could hear them crystal clear and it didn't hurt my ears. But boy, yeah, being right in front of them for that whole show was really, you could definitely hear that sound. And oh man, you could hear it. And you could feel it. You could, it's beating against your chest pretty good. But it was good. It was a good sound live. Yeah, I'll ask you some more questions about live. Sure, I'll be interested to get your views on that. Yeah. One More Time has a more R&B groove feel to it. I love that Coateson has these interjecting guitar bluesy licks, so kind of just sort of interjects these little licks in the song. Damaged. Again, this is another one where Richie shows his vocal range. This is one where the band's performance services the song. And the problem with a lot of power trios where you've got virtuoso musicians, it gets a bit showy. And it's actually the other way around. The band should always service the song, not the other way. The song services the performance. So in this one, they actually, it's spot on. Spot on. Yep.
Lyrics are interesting, but I'm damaged from the man I was yesterday. I guess I'm damaged from the breath I won't let me astray. And now it's over and done. It's about an apology. It's asking for forgiveness. It's over and done. So it's very confessional. Is that the feel that you got when you listened to this album?
I think the more I listen to the songs and lyrically, I'm like, yeah, there's definitely something deep going on here. I don't have the lyric sheet because I ripped it I think I just got it off iTunes. I don't know if I actually had a physical copy of the first album. So I don't have the lyrics in front of me, but when I've been listening to this up since the show, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of really deep lyrics going on here. This definitely is not your 80s David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
Cheesy Mr. Big kind of lyrical sound, some of that stuff.
And it's not cheery, is it?
No,
when you
it's
look
not
at
totally
the lyrics.
cheery.
No.
It's
6 feet.
Musically kind of sounds cheery at times. But lyrically it does not quite so much.
That's interesting, isn't it? So it's sort of kind of polar opposites. The lyrics are dark, but the music is kind of a little bit more bright. There are major keys. So, major, minor, sad, major, happy. It's sort of kind of polar opposites. 6 feet deeper. Again, it's a metaphor. 6 feet deeper is about a person who's trapped in a relationship. And he's using this metaphor that I feel 6 feet deeper. I'm like buried. I want to get out.
Yeah.
I can't get out of this relationship. I can't get any more less cheery than that, JC. What do you do?
No.
This has got, I wrote down David Coverdale. I think Richie sounds like a little bit of raspy later David Coverdale. And I'm talking about Good to Be Bad era.
Okay. Well, let me throw another one at you. I even pick up a little Glenn Hughes sometimes.
No.
On some of the songs. Not this. Maybe a little bit. Not maybe. I'm almost thinking of like Black Country Communion sounding Glenn Hughes.
Yes. Sonically, I think there are some similarities. I actually listened to the Black Country Communion first album just after this, the first time, to do a comparison. So they are built of the similar cloth. But are you talking about Glenn Hughes where he's in that lower register? Because Glenn's always at that higher, register.
Sometimes I think when Richie goes into that higher sound, it almost does kind of cross between Glenn and Cornell a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I pick up a little bit of both. Like a weird amalgamation of both. But
yeah. Time Machine. I put this as kind of doomy. And it's got this pseudo Eastern sounding riff. Like every time there's a metal album, there's always at least one Egyptian scale, or as Martin Popoff calls, Egypto.
Okay.
Yeah. So it all comes back to Kashmir. But this it's kind of a little bit conventional, bit rote. Bit repetitive. It's not one of my favorite songs, although I don't mind where it changes gears and tempo, and then Cozen does this really outworldly solo, and then you've got Machine on the bass doing the serpentine. I wrote down Sabbath. When Sabbath do those little key changes, like something off Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, where they do these little shifts into a different tempo and a different melody. Yeah, I wrote that. That's what Time Machine reminded me of.
Okay.
The Dying, epic, slow build. There's virtuoso fireworks between guitar, voice, and bottom end. The band's really firing here. I think it's Coateson's best guitar solo, or best guitar work on the album. It has emotional pull. So this is probably the standout track for me, and it's the second last one. So if you're not fatigued, because I don't say that as a mean to be nasty, but when you've got long albums, and I think the modern ears want, we're in the Spotify era. they want instant hits all the time. And I
Mhm.
think I like the olden days where people built up that sort of ability to listen to an album from start to finish. So this is the second last track on the album, and it's the best one. So I just think that I just hopeful that people go through the journey and then can hear it, because it's a gem. And then Regret, which is another equally almost as good song. It's a soul number. It's something completely out of the box. I put Cozen's channeling a bit of Michael McDonald.
Okay.
Bit of soul.
I can see that. Yeah.
And then it switches halfway into a hard rock type of number and becomes a bit rote and not as good. So all in all, I think it's a solid album. I've listened to 3. I think 3 is a better album.
Okay. Yeah, I it's been a little bit since I listened to 3. I got so focused on making sure I was good on this one, and I just haven't gone back to 3. So one thing I want to mention about live. So when I saw them, they did 16 songs and a bass solo. So 7 songs from this album they did live. 6 songs from the new one is all they did from that, and they did 3 from their second album, and that's it. And they did the 3 from the second album. Basically, you're kind of like a right boom, boom, boom. But as far as the songs they did from this album, they did Desire, Time Machine, Damaged, The Other Side, I'm No Angel, and then the last 2 were Regret, and they ended with Elevate. So Elevate to me just has that really happy, that major key feel where it feels you have this kind of happy, joyous feeling, but the lyrics aren't quite so cheery, like you were saying. So you kind of have a lot of that. So maybe that's probably why I felt like the concert was so much fun, because musically everything was so much fun. But because I had earplugs in and it was kind of muffling the vocals and the lyrics, I wasn't hearing it that well. So I didn't know those lyrics as well. So, but it was still, I was sad that I did not get any guitar picks, because nobody plays with picks in this band. Richie plays with his fingers. Billy obviously plays with his fingers, and Portnoy wasn't throwing sticks out. So no, nothing from the stage there. But yeah, it was live. These guys were it was just an hour and 45 minutes of just a great time. Kotzen hardly spoke on the mic. There was hardly any stage banner. So it was basically, they just got right down to business and they just played.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think as an album, it's really solid. There's a lot to enjoy. I do have misgivings in some of it. And but yeah, I think the one takeout of it is the lyrics are really deep, intense, intelligent. But yeah, it doesn't quite match the funky, uplifting hard rock riffage. It's a bit of a Trojan horse. So and that's a whole different subtopic we can do. Bands that have this sunny demeanor, but you look in the surface, not so sunny.
Yeah.
But
there you go.
John, as always, you bring home the bacon, and I thank you so much for delivering a rock postcard. And I really did enjoy listening to this album. Do yourself a favor, folks. It's a really worthy album. And as you get into their discography, like number 3 is a killer album. And maybe that's something I'll cover in another show. Check out My Music Corner with John Clauser. It is one of my favorite YouTube shows. I love it a lot. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. But one thing's guaranteed, you will see John and I on a show very soon. Cheers.